As of the end of 2024, I have ridden 67 different roller coasters, and so today I'm prepared to give you my top 15 favorites. I understand that that number isn't nearly as many as a lot of other coaster enthusiasts, but I'm still very thankful for those experiences and want to highlight the rides that I'm about to mention. Before we start the list, let me throw out the parks I've visited so you know where these coasters are coming from. If your favorite coaster isn't on the list, it's probably because I haven't ridden it. So, that being said, I have visited California's Great America, Six Flags Discovery Kingdom, Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, Knott's Berry Farm, all of the US Disney parks, Universal Studios Hollywood. Then the most relevant park for this video is Six Flags Magic Mountain. In addition to that, I visited a few other miscellaneous places. Before we get to the top 15, here are 5 coasters that just missed the cut. Apocalypse at Six Flags Magic Mountain, Goliath at Six Flags Magic Mountain, Space Mountain at Disney's Magic Kingdom, Superman Ultimate Flight at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom, and Medusa at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. Number 15, Tatsu at Six Flags Magic Mountain, opened in 2006, built by B&M. This is a massive flying coaster that fully takes advantage of its terrain in the middle of the park. As I just alluded to, this ride is indeed imposing. It has over 3,600 feet of track and a top height of 170 feet. The views are fantastic. Tatsu has a well thought out layout and a nice mix of elements. It really does make you feel like you're flying. Then the ride's best moment is definitely that pretzel loop. This is the shakiest part of the ride, but it's not shaky enough to cause any pain. Unfortunately, I only got one ride on my visit earlier in 2024, so next time I'm at the park, I would love to get more experiences on Tatsu. Number 14, Ghostrider, California's Great America, opened in 2013, built by GCI. This wooden coaster has an excellent out-of-control layout with multiple pops of airtime and lots of tunnels. That's complemented by comfortable Millennium Flyer trains. And overall, this coaster is really good when and if it's running smooth. Smoothness makes a massive difference on all wooden coasters, but especially Ghostrider because it has run really rough at separate points in its past. This coaster did get some retracking in the last couple of years, and it made it a lot smoother, so I hope it stays that way, because when Ghostrider is running well, it's a really fun wooden coaster. Number 13, Rock and Roller Coaster at Disney's Hollywood Studios, opened in 1999, built by Vekoma. Now it has been a little bit since I've ridden this. We're going on 4 years removed since my last rides on Rock and Roller Coaster, but I really enjoyed this indoor Vekoma launch coaster. The launch has some decent kick, and those inversions in the dark are fun, in particular the first two. Past those first couple of elements, the layout is not very extreme, but because it's placed in darkness and you have an onboard audio score, it feels more extreme than it actually is. I'm looking forward to seeing how this coaster rides next time I get on it. Maybe it'll be themed to Muppets by then, who knows. Number 12, X2, Six Flags Magic Mountain, opened in 2001, built by Aerodynamics. Now before you go crazy in the comment section, please note that I only got one ride on this coaster, and so there was a lot to process in that one ride, but I did have loads of fun on it. This fourth dimension coaster is like nothing else you'll ever experience really outside of Asia. It's not the smoothest, I'll say that, especially on that final Raven turn, but this coaster's elements stand alone, and the flipping element makes it even more wild. The fact that Aerodynamics actually built this coaster over 20 years ago is pretty crazy, and unfortunately, it essentially put them out of business. This is a ride that I would anticipate moving up my rankings in future years once I get more rides on it, but just basing it off that one ride, I'm going to slot it in at the number 12 spot. Number 11, Wonder Woman Flight of Courage, Six Flags Magic Mountain, opened in 2022, built by RMC. This next generation Raptor has a lot going for it. It's got length, it's got airtime, and it's got some hang time. RMC did a pretty good job mixing up the elements here, and with 3,300 feet of track to play with rather than the 1,800 of the prototypes, they could fit in a lot more. It's also a pretty smooth experience. There are 2 criticisms with this. Number 1, the restraints aren't my favorite, and number 2, it does slow down a little bit towards the end to the point where even though there are airtime hills, you don't always get thrown out of your seat. Pretty small problems though for a really fun ride. Number 10, Hyperspace Mountain at Disneyland, opened in 1977. Okay, let me explain this real quick. Of course, this is the traditional Space Mountain, but I'm specifically having the entry here that is the Star Wars overlay that we see in May. Because I view it as 2 very different experiences, I'm including this as a separate coaster credit and therefore a separate entry from the original and traditional Space Mountain, so that's why Hyperspace Mountain is here instead. That's just how I count it. I know not every coaster enthusiast would agree with that. This coaster does not have a particularly impressive layout. In fact, it's a very repetitive layout, but during the overlay, there's excellent onboard audio, even better onboard audio than usual, and some nice screen effects. Between a more chaotic soundtrack than the traditional version and those screen effects, it makes you feel like you're going a whole lot faster, even though of course you're still going just 32 miles an hour. Number 9. Expedition Everest, Disney's Animal Kingdom. Opened in 2006, built by Vekoma. I've talked about this ride many times before on this channel, but it is incredibly well themed, probably one of the best themed coasters in the entire world. This coaster doesn't have any crazy negative Gs, but it does have some decent positive Gs in that backwards helix inside the mountain. Such a fun coaster from start to finish, and if you couldn't tell, I really appreciate a well-themed park and a well-themed ride experience. Number 8. West Coast Racers, Six Flags Magic Mountain. Opened in 2020, built by Premier Rides. This dueling Premier Rides launch coaster does a lot of things really well. One of the best parts about West Coast Racers is that on every single ride, you will actually, well, race. This ride takes advantage of that dueling element very well with multiple crisscrosses and other interesting track maneuvers where the tracks interact with one another. Both sides are a lot of fun, but my personal favorite is the white side. The first couple of elements on that side hit a little bit better than the ones on the yellow side. Overall, a dynamic and really fun family thrill launch coaster. Similar to West Coast Racers is number 7, Full Throttle, Six Flags Magic Mountain. Opened in 2013, built by Premier Rides. The main problem with Full Throttle is its length, and admittedly, this is a very short coaster. And I do wish it was a bit longer, but the elements that this coaster has are pretty good. Most notably, that hang time filled inversion, the vertical loop, to start the experience. You pop out of your seat a few more times in between that and the last element, which is the drop over that same vertical loop. Do I wish that the trim brakes weren't on that drop? Yes, absolutely. I wish it had another helix or something like that. But even with the trim brake, you still get thrown out of your seat. Full Throttle is a short but sweet experience, and unlike West Coast Racers, it doesn't have comfort collars, which definitely is an improvement. Number 6. Accelerator, Knott's Berry Farm. Opened in 2002, built by Intamin Amusement Rides. This is another very short coaster, and it only really has 4 main elements: the launch, the top hat, the 2 overbanks, and that's about it. But it is a superb attraction, namely for those first 2. The launch is crazy powerful, 0 to 82 miles an hour in 2.3 seconds. Then the top hat gives incredible airtime. In the front you float on the way up, and in the back you float the whole way down. Then, the overbanks have a little bit of force to them, and you appreciate the speed. This ride is over before you know it, but the elements are very, very good. And in fact, the launch on this coaster is my favorite coaster element that I've ever experienced. Breaking into the top 5 is Railblazer at California's Great America. Opened in 2018, built by RMC. This, once again, is a very short coaster, but the elements it has are nothing short of powerful. The airtime you'll experience at 3 different points on this coaster are about the strongest airtime that you can get on a coaster. You get absolutely shot out of your seat, and I absolutely love it. It's not just airtime though, this coaster also has 2 fun inversions. As you probably noticed already, this coaster flies through its layout. The pacing is absolutely incredible. So you put all those things together and you get a really good, short but sweet RMC single rail. Number 4. Revenge of the Mummy, Universal Studios Hollywood. Opened in 2004, built once again by Premier Rides. This is probably the most underrated coaster I've ridden. Paper, it's nothing special. It's only 1,900 feet long with a top height of 44 feet and a speed of 40 miles an hour. Like some of the other coasters on this list though, this ride compensates with theming, and theming is something that I really value. Some of the dark ride scenes at the beginning of the ride are very well done, and then the build up to the first launch is theatric. Then, once you get into the layout itself, there's some decent forces, the launches aren't too shabby, and there's one moment of airtime in there. Overall, one of the best themed coasters on the list, and a really dynamic ride experience. Number 3. Ghostrider, Knott's Berry Farm. Opened in 1998. Built by CCI and modified by GCI for the 2016 season. In a lot of ways, this is a flawless ride, and I very nearly moved it up to the number 2 spot, but I decided to leave it here. This is a long coaster with 4,500 feet of track. Like all the coasters on this list, it's got a nice range of elements. Of course, it doesn't have any inversions, but it's got laterals, it's got airtime, and I love how long the experience is, as I alluded to a moment ago. This coaster is sensational in just about every way possible. Now, Ghostrider is a ride that gets better as the day goes on, and at night, it is even more furious than during the day. For whatever reason, this ride gets so much better over the course of a day, and night rides on Ghostrider are legendary, and for good reason. Do not leave Knott's Berry Farm without giving this attraction a spin at night, it's incredible. Number 2. Joker, Six Flags Discovery Kingdom, opened in 2016, built by RMC. For whatever reason, I've talked about this ride on this channel, it feels like more than any other attraction, so I'm going to keep my thoughts very, very brief here. Essentially, good airtime, awesome hang time. There's a lot of points on Joker where you're going to come out of your seat, even if it's not nearly as powerful as some other RMCs, especially Railblazer that we talked about earlier. The fact that this is said to be one of the weaker RMCs just shows how good the company is. And you know what? My number one coaster is indeed an RMC. It's Twisted Colossus at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Twisted Colossus takes all the things that Joker does well and pluses them. Airtime, you've got it, except there's more and it's more powerful. Hang time, you've got it, highlighted by the incredible Top Gun stall. Length, you've got it, and in fact there's 13 more seconds of prime ride time on Twisted Colossus than Joker when you combine the two tracks that Twisted Colossus has. Unfortunately, and unlike West Coast Racers in the same park, this ride does not duel on every single cycle, but even when it doesn't duel, it's a tremendous coaster. So, Twisted Colossus slots in at number 1, but to be honest, I did a lot of shuffling around in my top 3. All of these 3 coasters, Ghostrider, Joker, and Twisted Colossus, are very close in my opinion, but I'm going to stick with what I have for now. So, thank you so much for watching. Let me know down in the comment section below what your favorite roller coasters are, and there's a good chance that you may have ridden some more than I have. And more importantly than all of that, Happy New Year everyone. Let's have a great 2025.